Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar for OneHub. From 3 days to 3 hours, how you can accelerate your finance approvals without having to go through any manual workflows by simply joining into a one single portal where we will introduce how OneHub can connect your ERP system with the banking applications. So my name is Amin. I am your host for today, and let's get started on the webinar. So what we'll cover today will be how currently each and every corporate is facing this approval bottleneck issue where the payments really get stuck in terms of making the approvals between sent into the bank once the payment has been approved from the ERP system itself, and how OneHub, how we have introduced our own software called OneHub, where you can simply send these transactions directly from your ERP system to the bank. And then we will cover how exactly this approval matrix works inside OneHub, how you can send a transaction directly from your ERP system and someone can approve the payment using an email and just post it to the bank in the same real time. And I will do a live demonstration on OneHub as well, where I will show how exactly a payment can get posted from the ERP and go through an email approval flow, and then directly to the bank as well, how the progress works. And the flow will be open for any questions if there is any. So to start with the problem, what we identified the problem in current market of Sri Lanka is where most of the companies, it's not that the payment which is taking so much time, that the financial teams are very efficient in maybe creating the payments using their ERP system, but it's that the approval that takes time when it comes to these payments being processed. So it is true that when you go to the banking portals of your own, you can move money in seconds where that payment file is just inserted and the payment gets processed. But then again, how can we save time and how can we save this effort that we have put in terms of approving a single payment? So for an answer to that issue, what we came up is we came up with this platform called OneHub, how you can connect your ERP system with your bank directly and then have that approval matrix also built inside the platform. So we have we have the solution to make the payments directly from your ERP system to your bank. Any payroll payments, supply payments, or any other payments that are being processed can be completed through this progress, and then also pull back any transactions directly from your bank to your ERP. Um, and what we are today going to highlight is this approval matrix part, where how you can approve transactions directly from OneHub rather than having to go through these manual approvals workflows that you can be having in your company right now. So how OneHub works would be OneHub is an middleware integration layer that stands between your ERP system, or could be your HRM, could be any business application that you are using to process any payments, and as well as between the ERP and the bank. So what how OneHub facilitates these payments are from your ERP system. Once you have entered all these payments to your payment journal, once you post it directly via APIs, we send these payments to the bank. And inside the bank, once these payments are progressed and then these payments have been processed, all those transaction statuses and history account balances can be pulled back directly to OneHub, and you can view all of it inside OneHub itself. So think of OneHub as one single platform where you can connect all your multiple banks and just log into OneHub and do everything that you need to do rather than having to log into multiple banking platforms. So as I said, from the bank, we can always take the transaction status for every transaction that has been processed through OneHub, and you can get the transaction history, a full record of what you have processed from your bank account to OneHub as well, and then see the live positions of your account balances, and also have these filtering methods where you can sort what are the payments that has been approved maybe or that are outstanding yet can also be viewed just from the OneHub interface. And like I said, our main functionality where you can send directly payments through your ERP system to your bank, where we support all payment types. It could be SWIFT, SLIPS, or RTGS, and any bank that support telegraphic transfers payments also we can actually facilitate via OneHub. And the fascinating fact is that the multiple banks being connected to one single portal. So that means you have one single workflow where you can use across to all your banks. And these transactions are happening all real time. Soon as these transactions are being posted from your bank, you can directly send it to your bank without having to log into your bank, and that time is being saved. And also we have this functionality where you can send transactions to the bank and keep it as it is until the approvals are being made, and then only to process the payments as well. And batch payments can be processed as well as any documents. So in terms of any documents that need to be handed over to the bank, also we can be facilitated through OneHub itself. But as I mentioned about the telegraphic transfers, any banks that have that facility where they can pull the documents through a third party application like ours, we can facilitate these documents to be submitted to their portal as well. And the highlight of our webinar today, which is the approval bottleneck. So how are we going to solve this through OneHub? So currently, what most organizations are facing is this payment files are being now printed and it has been sent in an email to someone, could be any director, could be any manager, could be any authorizer who has to approve these payments, or could be from over the phone or through a WhatsApp message. And these approvals, whenever these are being sent through other different mechanisms, it could take so much of days or maybe time, the time that is being spent for approvals itself, and how you actually track if this payment has been approved or not. So as an answer, what we have given inside OneHub is we have created this flow where directly when you're sending transactions from your ERP system, it goes to OneHub, but then again, it is directly being sent to the authorizer via an email. So once they receive the email, they just have to go to the email, approve the payment, and an OTP will be followed up. They just have to enter that OTP, and then the payment will be processed automatically. So this all happens real time, and this makes it so smooth where just the authorizers also get a view of the exact payment information that has to be approved by themselves. And also once it is been approved in the portal, it can be viewed as well. So like I said, how the approval matrix works is we have made these signatories where for different transaction ranges, a signatory can be assigned. So if I give you an example now, if you are maintaining 3 signatories, signatory 1, signatory 2, and signatory 3, if you take signatories by uh, amount path, it would be between 100,000 to 200,000. You have to get this one signatory's approval. If it's between 200 to 300K, it would be signatory 1 and 2 both who has to approve these payments. Likewise, so that can be facilitated inside OneHub itself. So until signatory 1 and 2 or the necessary signatory amount has approved that payment won't be processed from the bank side. So these payments, again, like I said, will be sent through an email to the correct authorizer to approve. Therefore, that authorizer also doesn't have to log into OneHub. He can just view those payments from their email and then just simply approve. And in case of a signatory's absence, we have this mechanism where you can assign a delegate also to approve that payment. And all this mechanism is built inside OneHub. So as an answer that you don't have to log into your banking portal and have that flow where you don't have to approve payments again and again. So currently, OneHub is supporting Sage 300, Microsoft Dynamics Business Central, as well as SAP B1 ERP systems. We are currently progressing towards SAP S/4HANA as well. And the banks that we have already partnered up are HSBC, Standard Chartered, Commercial, Ceylon, TFCC, NTB, HNB, and Sampath Bank. So we work across all these banks and all these business applications as well. Apart from that, if there is any ERP systems that you guys are you currently using, if the solution in is there for us to integrate by maybe APIs or maybe by the host to host mechanisms, we can actually look into how we can integrate OneHub with them. So this is a summary and an introduction of what OneHub is and how the approval bottleneck problem is being solved. So I'll just now go to the demonstration of an actual scenario, how the payments are now processed from the business central and go to an email, and then it's been approved. So this recording, before I actually show it to you, I want to give us explanation behind this. So right now I am trying to show a demonstration of how a payment is posted from the Dynamics 365 Business Central of Microsoft ERP system and how it is now being sent to that authorizers and directly goes to the bank. So currently in this scenario, all the payments has been applied to a certain vendor, and now these vendor entries are now being processed. So if I am to skip that part, how the ERP payment journal section works, which is very uh, very familiar with all the ERP systems that are currently out there in the market. It's the same process that how it works. So So from Business Central, now once these payments are being posted, now this is the interface of OneHub, which I will actually take you through right after this recording. You can see who has to approve all these payments. We are in this authorizer section. So so once the payments are now being sent from the ERP system, they are directly being sent to the authorizer, and an OTP will be followed up. And once that OTP was entered, accordingly, the payments are now being sent to the bank, and you can see the status as pending. So the statuses also are as pending, approved, and also been rejected. So pending means that the transaction has still not been processed by the bank, but approved will be as soon as the payment is processed from the bank's end, the transaction will status will actually change to approved. And if there are any payments that have been rejected, it will go to rejected section itself. So it's now I'll actually show you how OneHub platform looks like, and just take you through the modules that we have inside the OneHub application. So this is the interface where you can view all the transactions that are being sent from the ERP system. So once you go to fund transfer main module, you have three sub modules called transfers, status, and rejected. So under transfers sub module, you can see all these batches, payment batches that has been sent. And when you click expand, you can view what are the payments that are under this batch. So under the batch under this initial batch, what are the transactions that have been lined up. So each transaction with their vendor's name, bank account number, bank name, bank branch, and then the transfer type, whether it's a slips or a SWIFT or an RTGS, and the amounts are being shown at here. So just like that, under status, you will see all the payments that has been processed or sent to process to the bank side. So transfers is when directly a transaction has been sent from the ERP system to OneHub without it being approved by someone else. You can just send it to OneHub, and then from OneHub itself you can send to someone to approve. But status will be from the ERP when you post the payments, once it has directly gone to the authorizers and what's their current status of it. So now if I am to expand this batch number, you can see for this transaction the status is in progress, and under authorizer, once you click on this icon, you can see who has approved that payment. So in this case, for an example, now Ruani has approved this transaction, and how Ruani has approved is from an email that she has gotten to her mail saying that this transaction is to be pending for her approval. So once she has approved it, the status will come here as approved. And this in progress status means that this transaction is yet to be processed from the bank side. So likewise, all the statuses of the payments, whether it has been approved by an authorizer or whether it has been processed from the bank side, you can view it in here. And under rejected, you can see any rejected transactions. So rejected reasons could be for the lack of funds in your account, or maybe if payment has been rejected by an authorizer directly, any transactions that comes under rejected will show up in here. So I will do a simple demonstration on how you can actually select a transaction from here and manually send it to someone for approval. So now if we pick this batch number and if we expand this, you can see now I have selected this transaction. What I can do here is I can either schedule this payment for a certain date at a certain time to be processed, or maybe if I don't select that option, that means that the payment is getting real-time processed. So once I hit proceed, I can see if any authorizers are there which I can send this transaction to be processed. So now for an example, if I select Rooney as the person who I am supposed to send this transaction for an authorization, I can select Rooney and I can just hit send. So once I hit send, that transaction record is now being erased from this transfers submodule, but you can see it under status. So under status, you can see I'll sync the payment before. Right. So that error means that the transactions has not been synced from the business central yet, but in case if the transaction was synced, it will directly come up here and it will show up in here. And as I said, that transaction will also be approved from here. Apart from that, we have this main modules called vendor master. So vendor master is a module which OneHub has been built to store all the vendors details. So most of the ERPs now, for an example, Sage 300 doesn't store vendors bank details in the ERP itself. So we have built this module where you can store all this vendors bank information, and if the vendors bank details and bank name, account number, addresses, or countries and everything else that has to be sent as an necessary beneficiary information to the bank. So you can have this one module where you can see all the vendors information, and the main module which we have highlighted so far in this webinar is the approval matrix. So like I said, approval matrices can be built based on the transaction ranges. So right now in here, you can see between 0 to 10,000, there's Jack as a default authorizer, 10,000, 100,000, Rooney and Jack both. Likewise, you can create multiple approval rules. So you can just click add the approval rule here, create any rule that you want based on the minimum and maximum range, and select an authorizer and then create a rule. So likewise, when a transaction between 10,000 to 100,000 was posted from your ERP system, it will directly send an email to both Ruani and Jack, and both of them has to approve that transaction in order for that to be processed from the bank side. And apart from that, we have an audit log that we are keeping in terms of each and every user activity behavior as a security protocol to measure what are the modules and what are the activity behaviors in terms of that user who has access to this platform. So that is pretty much about OneHub, and I will actually show how an authorizer also can see the platform from their end. So for an authorizer, when they log into OneHub, they have this module called approvals, where under approvals, they can see what are the payments that are being sent for them for their approval. So they just have to select a payment and approve. And based on that, the status in the status section, that's transaction will appear. So this is how we have built a solution where you can facilitate all your approvals inside OneHub directly via an email and being approved, and then how you can view that transaction status inside OneHub under the fund transfer main module status section as well, and also how you can create different approval matrices and based on the transaction rules under the main module approval matrix. So I will actually now open the flow for any questions. Any questions you have can be clarified here, and I will be glad to answer. You can just unmute your mic. We have actually disabled.